Welcome back to the Talk Healing to Me podcast, where we have real conversations about health, healing, and hope. And I am your host, Karen Dwyer, and today's guest is here to bust myths, to nourish our minds, and give us a hormone reset we didn't know we needed. Valeria Lopez is the founder of Wise Food Solutions, and she's a hormone and weight loss coach who isn't interested in calorie counting or bootcamp burnouts. Her masterclass is one of the most refreshing things I've seen online, and she gives women a new map to navigate hormones, weight, energy, and healing. And she's supported so many of our MS to Success clients to fuel to heal, not restrict to shrink. And today we're going to talk about that, the real reasons your body might not be responding, why move more and eat less is outdated and actually harmful, and how busy, brilliant women like you can finally feel good again from the inside out. Valeria, welcome. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Karen. Thank you
Hello.
so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've had this one on the back burner for a little while, and I'm glad that we both were able to find the time today to do that.
Yeah.
I would love to start by hearing your story. What led you to this work, and why did hormones become such a central part of your message?
This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor. Views shared are personal and not a substitute for professional guidance.
Okay. So, I think I always think that I'm a licensed nutritionist, and then I kept on studying, right? I'm quite a nerd, so I like to keep reading and learning and doing different things. But the main reason I became a nutritionist is because I was severely overweight for many years of my life. So I struggled with my weight for many years. That was super limiting to me. And I wanted to know how to fix it for myself. So it was a very selfish reason that I went to university to do this. But then when I came out, I was like, okay, I need to help people. I need to help women do this in a way that is actually helping, that is kind, that is loving. And instead of punishing ourselves for our entire lives just because we have a few kilos extra or just because we haven't been able to nail it so far. So basically, that is why I decided to work on weight loss, particularly. Especially, at first, I was a bit skeptical about it because there is so much out there, right, with weight loss. And everybody thinks that is kind of shallow to want to work on your weight. So I decided that I would change that narrative, that I would make it about letting your inner person, your inner, more true version of yourself out into the world instead of shrinking, like you just said, shrinking yourself or fitting in a certain, stereotype or anything like that. And hormones, well, because I am 40, almost 49, and yes, you have no choice but to care about your hormones. And honestly, one thing that I really learned is that you need to care about your hormones your whole life, not just in your 40s or 50s or whatever, when things start shifting, right? We are very hormonal beings, and that's a beautiful thing. And I discovered that our hormones are actually our superpower. It's not something to be scared of. It's not something, is there. Yesterday, I spoke with a woman and she told me, I think that my hormones are a pain. And I'm like, no. Your hormones are not a pain. Your hormones are a blessing. Your hormones are the reason you're so powerful. So that's why.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to describe it. And I feel like I can relate to both that woman and what you're saying, okay? And I'll tell you the reason why. Like, so much of what you said is so powerful. And what I'll say is I feel like I've tried every good diet that's out there. I mean, when I think back, I did the shakes, I did the juices, I did the keto. I mean, I feel like I have spent tens of thousands of euros, but actually, what's probably a little bit more upsetting, I have spent so much time beating myself up. And you know what the key thing that was missing until I found you? None of them, none of those programs spoke about hormones. None of them. And this might just be me, Valeria, and maybe everybody else is a bit more educated on them, but until I started working with you, I didn't know how to balance them. I wasn't taught that in school. And yes, okay, there's things there that I could have looked up online, but honestly, I was like, oh, talking about this phase and that phase, and it was just too much and too busy, and I don't have the bloody time. But yet just tell me what to do and I'll do it. It's almost like I didn't want the power or the autonomy. I just wanted to be told because I'm too busy and I'm too tired or I'm too stressed to actually deal
Mm.
with it. And what I have found with your work and the work that you do with our clients, because we're so lucky to have you in there, because, even, and I don't want to bring up menopause necessarily because that's not what we're going to talk about today, but it is a neurological shift and those
Yes.
hormones play such a big part. But I think there is such a major, major gap in the education, and I'm embarrassed to say it because I still don't have a full, like, 100, like, obviously you're so much more qualified than I am. I've just learned what you've taught me and other bits along the way. But it's such a gap in having women be empowered in learning what does and doesn't work. And yes, okay, there's things out there and medications that can help, but actually there's so many things naturally that we can do that I never knew about, genuinely didn't know about. And when I don't follow those things now, I really recognize the difference. Like, I'd love to hear, you've spoken about, some innocent mistakes that we make that sabotage our metabolism. What are some of the biggest ones that you see, especially in busy women?
Mm. Well, yes, that's a very interesting question. But before that, I would like to say something about what you just said because I thought that was super interesting. Um, One thing that we need to kind of eradicate is the idea of an all or nothing approach, right? Because things can be good for you and bad for somebody else. So it's not like, so hormone replacement therapy is bad or hormone replacement therapy is good. We don't know, right? So the first thing that we need to do is understand ourselves. One beautiful idea about health in general, not just with MS or with weight loss or with hormones, in general, is that every single symptom we have is a message from our bodies and it points exactly to its solution. So the first thing we need to do is listen instead of trying to cover up our symptoms, right? Now, to your question, one of the first things that I see happening that is an honest, very well intentioned mistake is, well, trying to cover up symptoms. So okay, so what do I have to take? Can I take a probiotic? Can I take vitamin D? Is it magnesium that I need? Is it omega 3? I don't, So let's stop focusing on symptoms as something that needs to be shut down and start understanding them in terms of, okay, so what are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? What are you trying to show me? Where is the root cause of this? Where is the imbalance? That's one thing. Another thing, obviously, is a very outdated approach. And I've done this myself. I learned this in university. I did it to all my past clients for what I ask for forgiveness every time I can, is thinking that the amount of calories that we consume are the key to whatever weight loss, hormonal balance, anything. Just eat a little less, you know, eat a little bit of everything, but just smaller portions. And go to the gym. You need to run, right? You need to run, you need to sweat, you need to go in the elliptical or the bike or whatever that is. And most women are actually doing it. And it doesn't work. So then the first thing they think is, oh, it doesn't work for me because I have a problem, because my metabolism is bad, because I have a slow metabolism, because my body doesn't work. It's betraying me. It's broken, right? And all those approaches kind of they put the blame on you and the solution somewhere else. And it's actually the other way around. So
It's
this
much easier to do that though, Valeria. Come on.
Oh, I know. And it's so easy. It's so much easier to say, oh, there's nothing I can do. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's actually the other way around. The solution is inside of you. And the problem is very likely to be around you, in your environment, in what's going on in your life, with your thoughts, with your work, with the way that you're treating yourself, with the way that you speak to yourself, not just in the food that you eat. The food that you eat is also, of course, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a big fanatic of food, and I love food and I love to eat. Just to be very clear, I am a regular human being. I love food. I'm not about, starving myself or never eating things that are supposed to be super yummy but not so healthy. That's not what we do. That's not realistic. So the counting of the calories, restricting calories, why is that so bad for us? Well, because first of all, not all calories are created equal. So it's not the same thing to eat 1,000 calories of broccoli than eating 1,000 calories of ham or ice cream or Coca-Cola. Not the same. The truth, though, is that most people, when they restrict their calories, at first they lose weight. And then they stop losing weight. And then they start putting back the weight on. So there are many things to consider here. The first, I think, is you need to understand what's going on in your body, and then you can do whatever your body is asking you to. And in order to do that, you need to be fully nourished so you can actually help your body produce energy, hormones, muscle, skin, hair. I have a lot of women coming and saying, I'm losing a lot of hair. My hair is falling off. What is it? Do I have to take what vitamin? And most of the time, it's a problem of our hormones getting imbalanced because we are eating too little.
Yeah. It's something we see very often in
Yes,
in MS to success.
yes,
Because
very
people
often,
think, yeah,
very often.
and it's wild because there may be other issues going on. So there might be some extra weight, or there might be energy, or might be fatigue. So it tends to be, or certainly what we've seen in the beginning of people's
Yes.
programs with us, there might be lack of energy, there might be brain fog. And so it's this cyclical
Hmm.
pain of I don't really have the energy to cook good food, so I'm just going to have this, or I won't bother eating because I don't want to put on any extra weight. And it is the stopping and taking stock of
Yeah.
what the lifestyle is. And I think that's why we do such a good job, and why you do such a good job with your own clients separately as well, is that the whole person is looked after, someone's whole lifestyle, not just a cookie cutter go and move more and eat less of this and this amount of grams of this and that amount of grams of that. I mean,
Hmm.
that's torture. I remember one of the things that you said to me personally was you need to slow down. Karen, you're go, go, go all the time. And
Yes.
that hit a nerve.
Hmm.
And do you know what? And it's interesting since that I've had this in the back of my mind when I am rushing, or I've got 10 minutes and I have to do that. And I'm like, Valeria said. But it does make a difference because a lot of the time we can't see the wood for the trees ourselves. We can't see it because we're just used to doing things a
Hmm.
certain way. And I think that comes back then to that holistic approach of honoring someone's lifestyle and time and all the rest, but actually, like you say, nourishing the body. Like you work with a lot of women who maybe think that they've been doing everything right, but still feel awful. What usually is going on beneath the surface? I think you may have touched on it just a moment ago, but those people that are maybe living with low energy, and it could be pain, or it could be just weight, or maybe emotional, instability. What do you think is usually going on beneath the surface?
This episode of Talk Healing to Me is sponsored by Clean Boss, created by Joy Mangano, the legendary inventor behind the Miracle Mop and a pioneer in clean innovation. Clean Boss is a botanical disinfectant that kills 99.9% of viruses, germs, and bacteria. It's safe for food surfaces, soft surfaces, and baby high chairs with no toxic ingredients and no rinse required. It's also a degreaser, odor eliminator, and all-purpose cleaner that works as hard as the chemical heavy stuff without the health risks. Check it out at getcleanboss.com/Karen for a clean, better, and living safer life.
In general, what I see is two things. Imbalances in the microbiome, definitely, all of us. myself included, and a lack of essential nutrients. So I specialize on weight loss. So more often than not, people think that when you want to lose weight, the most important thing that you need to do is take away things from you. We never think of what we need to give ourselves. So lack of energy, fatigue, problem sleeping, waking up in the middle of the night with your heart pounding, all of this, of course, it can be stress. Absolutely can be. But also, whenever your body is not being able to do something, to process something, it will store it as fat. That's what the body does. It's so brilliant, it's so intelligent that whenever something cannot be processed, hormones, toxins, you name it, anything, your body will store it as fat. Why? To survive. Because when it's stored as fat, it cannot kill you. Okay? So the body is an adaptation machine. Now, why can't the body process this? Things, toxins, hormones, excess sugar, insulin, cortisol, you name it, anything. Well, most likely because it doesn't have the resources. I always like to put this this example as, imagine in the 50s, because now this doesn't happen, but imagine in the 50s, a clerk in an office. Do you remember that those images
I
with a
do.
clerk in an office with a pile of papers on the desk, somebody buried in paperwork? Okay, that is your body storing things up as fat. Why? No computer, no phone, no nothing. So you don't have the resources to actually process all that.
Mm.
So you pile it up wherever you can, no? And you're
Yeah.
washing be after it. And you're like trying to do 5 things at once. So, example, um, most of the women that have trouble sleeping, lots of the women with MS have very impaired sleep. One of the reasons for that is basically, well, there are many reasons. You had the sleep doctor here before, so I'm not going to go into deep in that one. But seriously, sometimes what happens is an impair in energy production because of an insulin problem. So one of the things that is very simple for this, if you eat very late at night, which many people do, especially when you can't sleep, a lot of people get up and snack, eat something, no? Okay. Why do we do that? Well, because we don't know what to do, because we're stressed, because we're nervous, because we're bored, for a variety of reasons. What happens when we have a late dinner or a late snack is that insulin goes up at the same time that melatonin goes up. Melatonin is a beautiful thing that helps us sleep. Now, when both are going up at the same time, none of them will work properly. So your body will prioritize getting the glucose inside the cells, so it will prioritize insulin. Therefore, it will not prioritize melatonin.
Mhm.
So then your sleep is not going to be impaired. And that happens all the time. So usually what we need to do is give to our bodies rather than take things away from it. When your body is telling you, it's not letting you sleep, is making you tired during the day. Is it because it's making a mistake? No. It's telling you, stop drinking coffee. There's a reason you don't have energy. And I am trying to slow you down by making you tired, by making you heavier. Why? Because I want you to slow down. Your body wants you to slow down when you're tired. So you need to listen to that rather than trying to fight it.
Oh, wow, Valeria. I've never heard you say it in that way. Your body is trying to slow you down, so it's holding that. Whoa. Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's a little smack across the face.
Yeah.
Little gentle one.
Yeah, but
That
also imagine a woman that's trying to lose weight and says, I have to go to the gym. I'm exhausted, but I have to do more cardio because otherwise I will never get rid of this belly fat. and still the belly fat won't go anywhere.
Mm.
Why do you think that is? Because your body's making a mistake? No, the body never makes a mistake.
Wow. How
Never makes a mistake.
how do you get that balance, and how do you know when you're at that balance? And I'll go back a little bit because I know certainly within the MS to Success programs, the baseline things, and because we have like a whole body holistic approach and work on mindset, movement, nutrition, self-care, sleep. The basics that I'll always go back to, especially if someone's waking during the night or if they're, lose weight or they're tired, I will always go back to the basics of, okay, hydration, sleep, eating and times, making sure there's enough protein. Are they, getting out into nature? Are they moving during the day? But how does one get to a point where you trust yourself to be doing enough, say, movement and not resting too little? Because I'll speak for myself. I know I've certainly had the times where I'm like, oh, screw that. I don't want to go to the gym. And I'm not sure sometimes if it's just laziness
Oh,
or if it's, oh, actually, I need to rest. How would you distinguish what little voice inside to trust with that?
that's a very good question. Um, the thing is that you need to make decisions based on how you want to feel. And the awareness that you create in your program, for example, for these women, right? Understanding what's going on. Okay, so why don't you want to go to the gym? Like, really tune in. Is it
Mm,
because you're tired? Is it because you feel that you need to rest? Is it because you have to walk half a block to go to the gym? Is it why? And also be very honest with yourself and accept whatever answer comes from that question, right? So that happens to me too. Some days I just don't want to do it. Very recently, in fact, I recently moved out from my ex-partner's house, which you know. And the day that I moved out, no, sorry, the morning after I moved out, I had my regular workout with my clients.
mm.
And I thought I should probably cancel that because I just moved out. And then I'm like, why? What does this have to do with that? How is canceling this workout going to benefit me? How is
Yeah.
it going to make my, I don't know, unfurnished apartment better?
Yeah.
So these are the type of questions. And I think that working with a coach like you in a program like yours helps us make ourselves like make the real questions that we need to be answering. Because there is no right answer for a question like that. Why don't I want to go to the gym? I don't know.
Yeah.
You are the
That's a great
only one
that's
who
great.
knows why you don't want to do certain things.
Yeah.
If you tell me like, why do I crave, I don't know, well, I'm a pizza person, so let's go pizza. Why do I crave pizza every evening at 7? Okay, then I can tell you there is a metabolic thing going on there. And then we can go track that back. And I think that this can be done with pretty much everything. You can track any symptom, whether it is you're tired, you don't want to go to the gym, you have cravings, you have whatever it is, you can track it back to what's been going on today, maybe yesterday. So then you can say, okay, did I drink enough water today? How did I sleep last night? That's why it's so important when you ask your clients to monitor all these things. How was my sleep? What did I have lunch today? What did I have? Was it enough?
Yeah. And it can all be linked back. That's what's so beautiful and really empowering. And I love your gentle but really honest approach, Valeria. I remember in one of our batch cooking sessions with our clients, and it's very funny. And they've all been making that bread, by the way, and that beautiful garlicky tomato soup, which is so delicious. But one of the things you said was, oh, um, I don't wanna do that. I'm really lazy. I wanna find the quickest way and the easiest way, but super nourishing. And all of our clients spoke about that afterwards because it made them feel seen and heard, that it wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about, having Instagram type fridge or eating perfectly or really restrictive food, the adding in and really tasty food, like most of the time. And look, we remove gluten and dairy and maybe some other things depending on where people are at so that they have an opportunity for their nervous system to heal. And then they can reintroduce things if they want and test them out. But you would never know from our program that those things are removed because it's not about that. It's about adding in all these delicious foods. You would never know that those things have actually been taken out. And it's beautiful
Yes.
because we all want to find the quick way and the easiest way and not to spend a huge amount of time being stressed or worried
Mm.
about what you're doing. So I really love your approach and I really appreciate your honesty and your realness. You see these people online and they're all beautiful and they're doing fabulous. But sometimes social media and things like that, it can be this really farcical, unhealthy thing to try and keep up with, and we have our view of that's what life should be like, and I'm certainly not fucking living up to it,
No.
and it's very hard to do that. So I love the reality of you turning up and saying, "I'm really lazy. We're not gonna do this. We're gonna do it this way, and here's what makes this
Yeah.
easy and really nutritious." So thank you for that.
Thank
Um,
you for seeing that, because you know what? People tell me like, "Oh, you say you're lazy." Like lazy is a bad thing. It depends. Lazy doesn't have to be a bad thing if it helps you find a more creative solution that actually works for you.
mm, yeah,
I don't feel guilty because I don't like to spend hours in the kitchen. I don't feel bad about myself because I want my meals to be ready in 5 minutes. I actually feel amazing about that. I'm like, look at me eating really great food in 5 minutes.
I mean, who doesn't want that? I remember I remember us having,
And it's
uh
okay to want that.
absolutely.
Okay? Because another thing is like when you're talking about a mess, which is people get scared, right? It's an autoimmune condition. It has neurological symptoms. So, and you go like, wow, this has to be so hard. And if it's not hard, then you doubt it. Why is it so simple? Right? So with nutrition is the same. We are built to eat, right? So if we were made to eat, in what planet is that so complicated? Why have we made it so difficult?
Mhm. Do you know what I think? I know, not that with that. I think I have an answer to that, or certainly what I see the view is, and it's not excusing it. I think everybody's gotten so busy. I think life and the cost of living has gotten so expensive that
Yes.
everybody's working harder or trying to keep up, and then everybody's looking for convenience rather than going back to our baseline. Here's what we need to eat. Like I remember having the conversation around we were preparing for a batch cooking class with our clients, and I was like, "Oh, dinners and having those done," and a lot of them. And you was like, "No." One, I think some of the recipes that you had was like the nut and seed bread and the hummus and the soup, and I was like, "Oh, but they're kind of snacky." And you're like, "Yeah, but that's what people need." And honestly, I was like, "Okay." And I was kind of thinking, I know better, but I think that but we went ahead with your idea, and it was much better than doing the meals, and everybody absolutely loved it. So I'm calling myself out because in my head, in the past, I had to have all the dinners made and had to be all there, and then if I had that, then I wouldn't have to worry. But actually, it's in those moments like lunch or breakfast or those snacks where you have something healthy prepared that you don't fall down
Hmm.
and that you have lots of different elements that you can then put together and make a meal. So I'm converted, like all hail Valeria with that. So I just wanted to own that and have a giggle about that because I thought that was quite,
And
that was quite funny.
yeah,
And they're
but
so delicious.
that I remember when you mentioned that, and I was like, I'm not going to tell her that she's wrong, but
But it was.
I am not going to change anything either.
Yeah.
Right? So I did the why did I do the batch cooking class like that? Well, because I know that having things that you can mix and match sometimes solves more problems than having a risotto, a lasagna, thing, like very fixed and not so flexible options.
Yeah.
And we are
Yeah.
used to fixed and rigid and strict. And I want to break that paradigm about food because honestly, it hasn't led anywhere or
Yeah.
anywhere good.
Well, it's done all of us really well. So I'll thank you for that for sure. But it's definitely changed my approach to eating, and actually the organization at home, and even food shopping as well, that it doesn't have to be so complicated. It doesn't have to be so full.
No, no.
Um, yeah.
And
You
also you can do your shopping thinking of what you're going to eat, right? You mentioned earlier and the hormonal part, and you talked about how MS is a neurological thing, and how our hormones actually impact greatly our mental health, right? Especially for us women, as we age and we get into our late 30s, in fact, is when progesterone starts to decline. Nobody pays attention to progesterone. Everybody's so focused on estrogen that nobody cares that we have another one that is called progesterone. Is like kind of the twin sister of estrogen, right? But it starts declining in our 30s, in the late 30s. And then as we go into our perimenopause and menopausal transition, estrogen also starts declining. And that is by no means a bad thing. That's natural. That's what's supposed to happen. So fabulous. Now, in the brain, that does have an effect. And there is a reason why autoimmune conditions happen to women. 80% of autoimmune conditions happen to women, which means that only 20% happen to men. You see the difference there. Why? Well, because our hormones are very sophisticated. And we've never been told that that affects our digestion, our brain health, our heart health, our weight, our everything. Every single thing is affected by them. With MS, particularly, having a better hormonal balance helps in terms of brain health and insulin resistance. So we have over 200 hormones in our bodies. It's not just estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and all these trendy ones. No? So when you think about this in such a, you know, um, complete way, holistic, I'm a bit tired of the word holistic, if you
Mm.
don't mind. So if you see your body as a whole thing, then you understand that you need to nourish that wholeness yourself completely. And you can't forget about what helps you do, what helps you make hormones, what helps you metabolize them, what helps your body produce energy. That's what metabolism is. It's a big set of chemical reactions that help your body make energy from food. And when you don't eat food, it has energy stored. That's it. And that is the key for everything else.
It's unreal, isn't it, that there, particularly with MS, there's a 4-to-1 ratio of women to men diagnosed, which is absolutely, and also, there are programs out there that are not not taking hormones at all into account, or there might be programs designed by men and men's bodies and men's movement things, and they're great. They're really. I'm not trying to. They're absolutely brilliant, and they do a lot of really good. But I think where, like, there's so much missing in women's education, and really acknowledging and
Mm.
honoring
Mm.
those hormones, which is
Yeah.
such an important piece. What is, maybe for someone that is listening, and MS or not, it might just be someone that's, a woman that's feeling overworked and tired, and maybe, not really sure if they're eating the correct things. Maybe they're just getting through the day and feeling stuck. What are 2 to 3 gentle hormone friendly changes she could make today?
Hmm. Well, the first habit that everybody needs to focus on, if that's something that is not perfect, is
That is the end of part 1. And oh boy, do we have a great part 2. Now, in part 2, we talk about women who might be overworked or tired or just not really sure if they're eating the correct things, as well as the first thing that everybody needs to concentrate on if they want some great results for their body, their hormones, and longevity. I look forward to seeing you over there. It is a jam-packed second part. See you on the flip side. Thank you to our sponsors of this episode. You can visit getcleanboss.com/Karen. And also a thank you to our video and podcast producer and editor Aoife McNamara at Imagine Media. Thank you.